Hey guys, tonight we step back through time, into the heart of the Roman Empire, where marble gleams under torchlight and the air hums with the low murmur of 1,000 bathers. You're standing before the grand facade of a thermae, one of those sprawling public bath complexes that once dotted the empire from Britain to Syria. The air smells faintly of warm stone, olive oil, and smoke from distant braziers. You can almost hear the splash of water echoing beneath vaulted ceilings. And don't worry, you probably won't survive this as a Roman citizen. The hygiene standards might have something to say about that. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where and when you're listening from. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking along a cobblestone street in Rome, sandals scuffing gently against the ground. Around you, the day is ending. The sun's last light glances off terracotta rooftops. People drift toward the baths like moths to warmth. Merchants closing stalls, soldiers fresh off duty, slaves carrying bundles of towels and amphorae of oil. Everyone, rich or poor, finds their way here eventually. The Roman bathhouse isn't a luxury, it's a rhythm of life, as expected as breakfast. You pass under a towering archway, carved with garlands and Latin inscriptions, praising emperors who built these wonders for the health of the people. Inside, your breath catches. The air is thick and damp, laced with the mineral tang of heated water. A faint hiss of steam rises from vents in the floor. Somewhere, a metal scraper clinks against marble. The entrance hall opens before you like a cathedral. Marble floors, mosaic tiles, and a ceiling so high it feels like the sky itself. Columns line the passageway, smooth, cool, and flecked with gold veins. The scale of it all feels indulgent, but also oddly democratic. Here, senators and shoemakers share the same steam, though not quite the same towel service. The bathhouse you've entered is inspired by the Baths of Caracalla, one of Rome's grandest, covering over 25 acres. It could hold up to 1,600 bathers at once. Just imagine that, an ancient spa the size of a small town, heated not by electricity, but by a carefully orchestrated underground system of furnaces and ducts. Engineers in togas, because yes, those existed, perfected the art of moving heat and water across massive spaces without setting the whole place on fire. Mostly. You move deeper in. Your footsteps echo softly now. Every surface glistens with a thin film of moisture. Warm droplets fall occasionally from the ceiling, tracing your arm with tiny cooling trails. The smell shifts subtly. Olive oil mingling with lavender and the earthy musk of hundreds of humans in various states of relaxation. To your left, a small fountain trickles continuously, carved in the shape of a dolphin. You watch the water spill into a shallow pool, rippling the reflection of torchlight. Romans believed that moving water wasn't just pleasant, it was alive, infused with numen, a divine spark. Bathing for them wasn't only about cleanliness, it was communion with the elements. A boy runs past you, laughing, carrying a wooden strigil for his master. His bare feet slap against the marble. You catch sight of older men reclining nearby, chatting lazily, steam curling around their heads like halos. Someone gestures animatedly about the latest chariot race. Another complains about grain prices. It's all so ordinary, and yet so extraordinary. You pause by a wall fresco, figures painted in ochre and vermilion, half faded but still graceful. Nymphs pour water from urns, gods recline in painted pools. The art hums with the same theme repeated over and over, water as transformation. You can almost feel the ancient belief that purification begins not in the mind, but in the skin. Historians still argue whether Romans truly bathed daily or only a few times a week, but evidence suggests that for city dwellers, the bath was a near daily ritual. Imagine the infrastructure needed: massive aqueducts channeling water from miles away, furnaces burning constantly, attendants scrubbing tiles and refilling pools. It was a logistical ballet, all for the sake of relaxation. And there's something strangely modern in that. You'd recognize this feeling, that quiet hum of shared ritual, the slow decompression after a long day. The baths were, in a sense, ancient Rome's wellness center, complete with massages, manicures, exercise rooms, and even snack stalls selling honey cakes and mulled wine. You could spend half a day here and call it productive. You notice a faint tremor beneath your feet, the rhythmic pulse of the hypocast, the underfloor heating system. It's powered by slaves feeding wood into furnaces below. The heat rises through empty spaces under the floor, slipping through vents and pipes, warming the walls themselves. The Romans didn't just master comfort, they engineered it. Though, to be fair, the workers down there probably didn't feel very comforted. As you stand there, watching the steam drift upward, your mind starts to slow. The echoing voices become part of the atmosphere, like distant waves. A bather nearby hums tunelessly, the sound bouncing gently off the tiles. You can feel the world outside fading, the marketplace noise, the dust, the sun. Inside these walls, time feels syrupy, suspended. You step toward the main corridor, where warm light filters through colored glass. It paints soft patches of gold and amber across the floor. A lazy droplet of condensation slides down a pillar beside you, leaving a clean streak through the dust. You realize this place isn't sterile, but it's alive. It breathes with the rhythm of those who visit. A mainstream historical fact for you: some of the largest baths in Rome could use over 6 million liters of water per day. That's about the same as a small modern town. And yet, the aqueducts kept it flowing without fail. The Romans were so confident in their systems that even emperors like Hadrian were known to bathe publicly among common citizens, at least occasionally. A more curious tidbit: archaeologists once found tiny dice and game pieces embedded in the drains of ancient baths. It seems that while people soaked or waited, they played games right there on the stone benches. So yes, humans have always found ways to make waiting more entertaining. The air grows heavier with warmth, your skin slick with the faintest sheen of moisture. You can hear water slapping softly against stone as someone climbs into a nearby pool. For a brief moment, you imagine yourself dissolving into that same rhythm, your heartbeat syncing with the soft, liquid pulse of the bathhouse. Some scholars still argue whether the baths were primarily about hygiene, socialization, or even moral symbolism. Were they health rituals or just elaborate excuses to gossip in warm water? The truth probably lies somewhere in the steam between. But as you stand there, surrounded by the hum of human life, it feels less like a question of purpose and more like a universal instinct. You take a slow breath. The warmth seems to seep into your bones, softening the edges of thought. The marble beneath your fingers hums faintly with heat. Somewhere nearby, a faint metallic scrape, someone sharpening a strigil for use. You'll get there soon enough, but for now, you linger in the entrance, just absorbing the atmosphere. This, after all, is where it begins. The crossing from the dusty world outside to the liquid calm within. You haven't even bathed yet, but already something ancient stirs. A quiet invitation to let go, to be remade by water and time. You step forward, leaving behind the echoing entrance hall, and enter the tepidarium, the changing room. The air shifts immediately, becoming warmer, more intimate. Voices bounce off the tiled walls, low and lazy, the sound of conversation muffled by steam and laughter. Here, you're surrounded by a comfortable chaos, people undressing, folding their tunics into neat piles and handing them off to attendants who seem to know every bather by name. This is where your transformation begins, not in the water yet, but in the shedding of what you brought from the outside world. You unfasten your sandals, place them aside, and the cool tile kisses your bare feet. The floor is worn smooth by centuries of souls. You can almost feel their ghostly presence, citizens of long ago, hurrying or lingering, gossiping or sighing in relief. A servant approaches, offering a small clay jar of olive oil. The Romans never used soap as you know it. Instead, they slathered oil over their skin to loosen dirt and sweat before scraping it away later with a curved metal tool called a strigil. You take the jar, its surface slick, and pour a small stream into your palm. The oil is warm, scented faintly with herbs, maybe rosemary or thyme. You spread it across your arms, feeling the rich texture slide easily over your skin. There's a quiet rhythm here, the shuffle of feet, the clink of strigils, the murmured Latin exchanges. You catch snippets of conversation, complaints about taxes, plans for dinner, and the eternal debate about whether the latest charioteer at the Circus Maximus is truly as skilled as his fans claim. Even in antiquity, everyone had an opinion. Nearby, a wealthy matron reclines on a bench while two attendants rub her shoulders with oil. She's wearing a gold hairnet that glitters in the lamplight. A few feet away, a soldier removes his cuirass, the sound of metal meeting marble with a satisfying clunk. He stretches, joints cracking, and lets out a sigh that could belong to anyone in any century after a long day. The apoditarium is more than a locker room, it's a social stage. Everyone is on display, yet somehow no one seems self-conscious. There's a shared understanding that here everyone's just human, sweaty, dusty, in need of warmth. Still, unspoken hierarchies persist. The wealthy can afford attendants to guard their belongings, while the poor rely on hope or quickness of hand. Theft was so common that some bathers scratched curses onto lead tablets, pleas to the gods to punish anyone who dared steal their sandals or tunic. Historians still argue whether these changing rooms were fully segregated by gender. Some evidence suggests that men and women bathed at separate times. Others claim that mixed bathing wasn't unusual, at least among the upper classes. You picture the Romans shrugging at our modern prudishness, probably wondering why anyone would be scandalized by something as natural as a bit of steam. You run your fingers along the wall. It's cool, smooth marble veined with faint green lines, dotted with tiny hooks where people hang their garments. Above, frescoes depict mythological bathers, Venus emerging from the sea, Apollo rinsing after battle. There's a certain irony in the gods needing baths, but perhaps even immortality collects dust. The mainstream historical fact often featured cubbyholes built directly into the walls, where bathers could store clothes and valuables. Wealthy Romans sometimes employed capsari, slaves whose sole duty was to watch over these belongings. If a theft occurred, the capsarius was usually blamed, sometimes whipped, even if innocent. Security, it seems, has always been a tricky business. A more curious tidbit, archaeologists excavating Pompeii found graffiti in a bathhouse changing room that reads, "Secundus loves Iris, who doesn't return his affection." It's a small, lonely message, immortalized in plaster. Imagine carving your heartbreak into the wall while waiting to exfoliate. The baths weren't just about cleansing bodies. They were about airing the quiet, human mess of emotions too. You notice an older man beside you, carefully oiling his forearms, his skin weathered from years in the sun. He hums softly, maybe an old soldier's tune. When he catches your glance, he gives a slight nod, the universal acknowledgement of two strangers sharing the same small ritual. Then he gestures toward the deeper chambers, where mist curls and heat ripples. "Calor bonus est todi," he mutters. "The warmth is good today." You smile faintly, even if your Latin is a bit rusty. You move toward the next doorway, but not before pausing to watch the attendants. Their movements are efficient, almost choreographed. One hands out oils, another collects dirty towels. A boy carries a bucket of sand, used to help scrub away grime more effectively before rinsing. It's all part of the rhythm of cleansing. Historians still debate how personal this process felt to the Romans. Was bathing an intimate, almost sacred ritual, or just a practical necessity dressed in marble? You lean toward the former. There's something meditative about watching people unburden themselves, layer by layer, until only their true selves remain.
A small joke drifts across your mind. You wonder what a Roman gym membership might have cost, or if anyone ever faked an injury to skip their turn at the cold plunge. Probably. Some things never change. You notice the faint glint of bronze as someone sets down their strigil, the curved tool catching light like a crescent moon. You pick it up, just to feel the weight. It's heavier than you expect, smooth from years of use. The edge isn't sharp, it's more like a gentle scoop. You imagine dragging it across oiled skin, the dirt and sweat scraping away with it, leaving a faint gleam. Not exactly spa luxury, but effective. In the corner, a small brazier glows softly. It warms the air, making the oil on your arms even more fragrant. Someone nearby sneezes, then laughs, blaming the steam. There's laughter, but also comfort in the ordinary. These are the sounds of people unwinding after the grind of Roman life. It strikes you how communal this all feels. Bathing, here, is not a solitary act, but a social equalizer. It's where deals are made, alliances whispered, and gossip bubbles hotter than the water itself. Even emperors knew the political power of shared leisure. Augustus once noted that he preferred to bathe among citizens. It was good for reputation, and perhaps for humility. As you move toward the doorway leading to the next chamber, an attendant gently taps your shoulder and gestures for you to oil your back more thoroughly. You comply, rubbing the slick warmth across your shoulders. The sensation is oddly comforting, almost hypnotic. It's as if you're preparing your body for a gentle rebirth, one that begins not with grandeur, but with something as simple as clean skin. You take a slow breath and glance back at the benches, now half empty. Steam rises like ghostly ribbons, curling through shafts of golden light. A pair of sandals sits forgotten in the corner, their owner already vanished into the inner rooms. You feel that faint tug to follow, to see where the heat deepens and the water whispers louder. Before you go, you notice a mosaic underfoot. Tiny tesserae arranged into the image of dolphins chasing each other in a circle. It's symbolic, perhaps, of renewal, of endless cycles. The Romans loved such imagery. Life flowing like water, never truly stopping, just changing shape. You step over it carefully, not wanting to disturb the moment. The floor is warm now, heated from below by the hypostasis. You can feel the vibration of life humming beneath you, a steady reminder that comfort in Rome was engineered down to the last detail. You exhale slowly, feeling lighter already, your clothes gone, your skin slick, your mind quieter. This is the first true threshold. The door ahead beckons softly, promising warmth and stillness, but not yet silence. You take one last look at the tepidarium, with its chatter, its oil, its faint air of mischief and camaraderie. Then, with a gentle step forward, you move toward the tepid air beyond, toward the next layer of the Roman ritual. You leave your folded garments and sandals behind, stepping barefoot across the warm marble threshold into the next chamber. The tepidarium gives way to the heart of Roman chatter, the palestra and adjoining halls where sound becomes a living thing. The temperature rises, the humidity thickens, and so does the noise. It's not just talk, it's a symphony of splashes, laughter, clinking oil flasks, and the faint slosh of water moving through pipes. This is where you truly enter Roman society. The bathhouse, for all its marble grandeur, is less a temple of cleanliness and more a marketplace of connection. Here, you're not just washing your body,
You're soaking in conversation. You pause beside a low wall as a pair of men debate something passionately in Latin, gestures flying. You catch only fragments: senatus, grain, Carthago, the topics you'd expect when politics and perspiration meet. The Roman bath was the ancient world's water cooler. Deals were made here, friendships formed, reputations shattered over a careless remark or an overheard rumor. One elderly bather leans toward his companion, whispering in that conspiratorial way people use when they pretend not to be gossiping. You can almost imagine the centuries-old equivalent of office drama. Who was seen with whose wife? Who bribed which magistrate? Who had the best imported olive oil? The air feels alive with small talk that somehow feels both trivial and eternal. As you walk, the floor changes beneath your feet. Mosaic tiles forming scenes of athletes wrestling, runners stretching, discus throwers frozen in perpetual motion. These were not random decorations. They set the tone for what many did before bathing: exercise. The palaestra, or gymnasium, was usually attached to the baths. You glimpse it through a wide archway, an open courtyard filled with sunlight where men practice wrestling, boxing, and throwing weights that look suspiciously like modern dumbbells. You can't help but smirk. Nothing like working up a sweat right before getting clean. But to the Romans, this made perfect sense. The bath wasn't just for washing off the day's dust. It was a complete ritual. Warm up, oil up, scrape off, rinse down, then relax and socialize. If you've ever done yoga before showering, congratulations, you're following a 2,000-year-old routine. A mainstream historical fact, some of Rome's largest bathhouses employed over 1,000 staff: attendants, masseurs, barbers, cooks, and even librarians. Yes, libraries. The baths of Caracalla included a massive reading room stocked with scrolls, so patrons could discuss philosophy while cooling off. Imagine doing your morning reading while wearing nothing but olive oil and confidence. You wander deeper, past a marble fountain where water streams continuously from a sculpted lion's mouth. The sound mingles with the low buzz of voices and footsteps. People cluster in small groups, leaning on pillars or perching on benches, exchanging news. A young man nearby recites a few lines of poetry, perhaps hoping to impress. His friends applaud politely, though one yawns behind his hand. Some things never change. A curious tidbit floats to mind. Graffiti discovered in several Roman baths includes crude sketches, jokes, and even insults. One reads, "Gaius is a liar and his oil smells cheap." Another, more philosophical, declares, "Life is like a bath. You're warm for a while, then you get cold." You can almost see the ghost of some long-gone wit scratching that into the plaster with a grin. The atmosphere here is relaxed but charged, like a dinner party without the food. You overhear a debate about gladiators, someone arguing that a particular fighter was too handsome to be real. A merchant nearby boasts of his profits shipping grain to Ostia. A woman in a crimson stola scolds her friend for spending too long in the caldarium last time. "Your skin peeled for a week," she says, laughing. Historians still argue whether bathhouses truly blurred class lines. While they were technically open to all free citizens, the wealthy often enjoyed private hours or reserved rooms. Yet the fact remains, here, everyone sweats the same. For a brief hour, the boundaries soften in the steam. The soundscape wraps around you like fabric. Low conversations punctuated by bursts of laughter, echoing splashes, the soft thud of sandals. The ceiling amplifies it all, the curved vaults turning talk into music. Somewhere, a lyre player strums gently, his notes weaving between the murmurs. It's as if the entire building breathes in rhythm with its guests. You notice a faint draft, warm air funneling from the deeper chambers. It smells faintly metallic, with a whisper of sulfur. Ahead lies the tepidarium, the warm room that awaits. But for now, you linger, caught in the living pulse of this place. You sit for a moment on a stone bench beside a marble basin. The surface is cool against your oiled skin. A group of children chase each other nearby, giggling, their wet footprints dotting the floor. A mother scolds them gently in Latin before returning to her conversation. The sound echoes lightly, blending into the background hum. You think about how this space, loud as it is, feels strangely soothing. There's comfort in collective sound, like waves lapping ashore. It's communal, alive, and oddly calming. You close your eyes briefly and imagine being one more indistinguishable voice in this timeless chorus. A slave passes carrying a bucket of warm water, splashing a little as he goes. He glances up, meets your eyes briefly, then looks down again. It's a reminder that even in this place of equality, not everyone bathes as a free citizen. Yet even he will likely enjoy a quick wash once his duties end. Water, in Rome, touched everyone. Somewhere nearby, a scholar argues that bathing too long weakens the spirit. His companion scoffs, claiming it's good for the heart and the mind. Historians still debate that too, whether Roman baths were healthful or harmful. Some ancient doctors recommended brief sessions, others insisted on long, luxurious soaks. The line between medicine and indulgence was as blurry as the steam. You find yourself smiling at the thought that perhaps we still haven't settled that argument. Is a hot bath self-care or procrastination? The Romans would likely say yes. Your skin glows faintly now under the light of oil lamps. The scents of rosemary, myrtle, and sweat mingle in a way that shouldn't be pleasant, yet somehow is. Someone behind you sneezes, and laughter ripples through the crowd. It feels less like a bathhouse and more like a gathering of friends you've always known. Another small joke bubbles up in your mind. You imagine a Roman influencer posting scrolls that say, "Morning soak, sponsored by Pompeian olive oil, cleanse like a Caesar." Maybe that's a thought best left in the imagination. A young attendant offers you a towel, more symbolic than functional, and points toward the archway ahead. The noise seems to soften there, as if the next chamber absorbs sound. The air rolling out is warmer still, carrying with it the faint sweetness of steam. Before leaving, you glance once more around the crowded room. Every gesture, every glance feels practiced. Humans have always gathered around warmth and water. You think of all the conversations that began here. Alliances forged, lovers' eyes meeting across a pool, secrets whispered and lost to the mist. A final mainstream fact to tuck away before you go, some bathhouses even had small snack bars, vendors selling wine, nuts, and pastries. You could literally eat, debate, bathe, and nap all without leaving the complex. The ultimate all-inclusive experience. You take a last slow breath. The air tastes faintly of salt and stone. Then, stepping away from the crowd, you move toward the arch where the warmth deepens and the voices fade. The tiles under your feet are warm, and your reflection flickers across polished marble, as if the building itself is breathing with you. Behind you, laughter and conversation blend into a soft roar. Ahead, the air glows golden and still. You cross the invisible boundary between talk and tranquility, between the outer world of chatter and the inner world of calm. You don't look back. The echo of conversation follows you like a friendly hum, fading gently as you enter the embrace of warmth awaiting beyond. You pass through the archway, leaving behind the lively chatter and the clink of strigils. The air changes again, less dense with voices, more enveloping with warmth. You step into the tepidarium, the room of gentle heat, and the transition feels like slipping into a dream. The air hums softly against your skin, wrapping you in a velvety layer of moisture. It's neither hot nor cool, just perfectly balanced, as if the room itself has been tuned to the temperature of contentment. Light filters down through small, high windows, The steam diffuses it into a golden haze that seems to glow from nowhere. The marble walls gleam faintly with condensation, catching the light in 1,000 tiny sparkles. The smell here is subtler, olive oil and faint incense mingled with something mineral and clean. Your footsteps make no sound. Even your breathing slows. This is the heart of calm in the Roman bathing ritual, the space between energy and stillness. After the talkative chaos of the outer rooms, the tepidarium feels like an exhale. You can almost hear the building sigh. A few bathers recline on marble benches built against the walls, eyes half closed, muscles glistening with oil. Some are whispering softly, others simply drifting, letting the warmth soak into their bones. You notice an attendant carrying a small bronze ladle, pouring warm water gently over a guest's shoulders like a human fountain. The droplets steam as they touch skin. You sit down on a low bench near a decorative basin. The marble is pleasantly warm, not searing, just comforting, the way sunlight feels on a spring afternoon. You place your hands flat against it, feeling the slow pulse of heat that rises from below. The hypocus is working perfectly here. Somewhere beneath your feet, furnaces roar quietly, sending heat through the hollow floors and up through fluted tiles in the walls. It's astonishingly advanced for its time, a mainstream historical fact. Roman engineers perfected this radiant heating system over 2,000 years ago, using brick pillars to suspend the floors so that hot air could circulate freely beneath. Some villas even had personal hypocus, a luxury version of underfloor heating that modern homes still imitate. A soft laugh echoes from across the room, a pair of young men teasing each other about who lasted longer in the cold pool yesterday. You smile faintly. You'll get to that part soon enough. For now, you let yourself breathe, your body loosening with every passing moment. The Romans didn't hurry here. The tepidarium was a space for transition, where your pores opened, your muscles unwound, and your mind slipped into quiet. You think about how strange it feels to truly pause, to just sit and feel warm. The Romans were masters of that art. They built leisure into their architecture as deliberately as they built their aqueducts. A servant moves past, refilling oil flasks and adjusting towels with near ritualistic precision. His sandals make the faintest squeak on the damp marble. He hums under his breath, something tuneless and simple, a rhythm that syncs perfectly with the slow heartbeat of the room. You tilt your head back and notice a small vent high in the wall where steam escapes in soft ribbons. The light passing through it catches dust motes, making them sparkle like tiny constellations. For a moment, you imagine the ceiling as a night sky and the bathers below as planets, each revolving gently in their orbits of calm. A curious tidbit, in some tepidaria, archaeologists have found traces of perfumed plaster, walls deliberately infused with scented oils or resins that released fragrance when warmed. The Romans literally built aromatherapy into the architecture. It makes you wonder what modern spas have really innovated, besides background music. Historians still argue whether this middle room was the most important of the entire bathing process. Some claim it was purely functional, just a place to acclimate before the hotter caldarium. Others insist it was spiritual, a liminal zone where the mind quieted before deeper cleansing. As you sit there, lulled by the heat, it feels more like the latter. This isn't just waiting, it's arriving. You shift slightly, feeling the film of oil on your skin glisten in the amber light. A droplet of condensation forms on your shoulder, cool for a second before it warms and slips away. The sensation is hypnotic, grounding. You can almost hear your pulse echoing softly in your ears. Across the room, an older man sits with his eyes closed, humming faintly. He might be meditating, or maybe just dozing. His chest rises and falls in slow rhythm, and the sound merges with the quiet hiss of steam. You realize how universal this moment feels, the way warmth disarms the body, the way silence begins to hum when the mind stops pushing against it. A woman walks past, balancing a small amphora. The faint scent of rose oil follows her. The air itself feels alive now, shimmering in invisible waves. You catch your reflection in the polished marble of a nearby column, a slightly distorted, golden version of yourself. The lines blur, and for a moment, you could be anyone, any Roman bather from 2 millennia ago. You lean back and close your eyes. The marble against your spine radiates heat slowly, seeping inward. Thoughts drift. What it must have been like to build such a place without modern tools. Hundreds of workers hauling stone, carving pillars, laying mosaic floors by hand, all to create this seamless comfort. You can almost hear their chisels still, faintly beneath the hum of the furnace. A little humor slips into your thoughts. You wonder if Romans ever argued over the thermostat. Maybe there was always that one senator complaining, "It's too hot in here," while everyone else pretended not to agree. You reach out to trail your fingers through the warm water of a shallow basin beside you. It's perfectly still, reflecting the light like liquid gold. You swirl it gently, breaking the symmetry, watching the ripples fade. The quiet feels sacred now, a kind of worship that requires no gods, just stillness and breath. Another fact: Roman bathhouses often had attendants whose job was simply to fan the air or adjust vents to keep temperatures consistent. It's the ancient version of climate control. The precision with which they maintained these thermal gradients would impress any modern engineer. Comfort, after all, was a Roman virtue. The minutes pass, or maybe much longer. It's hard to tell. The world feels suspended here. You imagine the city outside, the shouting vendors, the clatter of carts, and it seems impossibly far away. Here, time dissolves like steam against skin. Historians still debate whether the baths encouraged moral decay or civic unity. Some Roman moralists, like Seneca, grumbled that too much luxury weakened the soul. Others saw the baths as vital to Roman identity, proof that civilization meant more than conquest. It meant warmth, order, and shared humanity. You suspect both were right in their own way. Comfort and decadence are close cousins, after all. You open your eyes again. The room hasn't changed, but you have. There's a looseness now in your shoulders, a deeper rhythm in your breathing. You feel lighter, not just from heat, but from quiet. The tepidarium is doing its work, slowing you down to the Roman pace, which, paradoxically, feels timeless. You glance toward the next archway. Through the haze, you glimpse movement, a faint shimmer of deeper steam, thicker and denser, rising like ghostly fabric. The air wafting from it is hotter, sharper. That's the caldarium, the true test of Roman endurance. But before you go, you take one more slow breath, inhaling the scent of warm stone and oil. You listen to the near-silent hum of the hypocast, to the soft shuffle of attendants, to the heartbeat of this perfect, man-made calm. You smile faintly, thinking how the Romans designed not just spaces, but experiences, architectural lullabies meant to cradle the mind. You stretch your legs, roll your shoulders, and feel ready, not in a rush, just quietly prepared to step deeper into the heart of heat. You rise, droplets tracing lines down your arms, and walk toward the shimmering doorway. The warmth thickens with every step, the light deepens, and the soft sigh of the tepidarium fades behind you. Ahead, the air shimmers like a mirage. The heat beckons. The doorway between the tepidarium and the caldarium is a threshold in more ways than one. As you pass through, the shift is immediate and complete, like stepping from a tranquil dream into the heart of the sun. The heat envelops you at once, wrapping your body in dense, tangible air. You inhale carefully. The breath is thicker now, richer with vapor and minerals. The sound of the furnace feels nearer, almost inside the walls themselves, as if the stones are alive and breathing fire. The caldarium, the hot room, is the crown of the Roman bath experience. Everything before it, the cold vestibule, the massages, the warm transition of the tepidarium, has been leading here. This is where purification truly happens. The body sweats, the muscles loosen completely, and the spirit, perhaps unwillingly at first, lets go of what it has been holding. The architecture reflects this intensity. The ceiling curves high overhead in a great dome, designed to collect and trap the heat evenly. Moisture glistens on the curved marble, rolling down in languid droplets that sizzle faintly when they touch the hotter stone near the floor. The air is so thick with steam that you can barely make out the far end of the room. Everything is softened, ghost-like. Figures move in a fog of light and vapor. You find a place along the edge, near a low basin filled with steaming water. The marble seat here is hot enough that you hesitate before sitting, letting your skin acclimate. A fine sheen of sweat appears on your arms before you've even settled. The sensation is startling, but quickly becomes pleasant, cleansing even. You understand now why the Romans spent hours here. In the center of the room stands a massive bronze cauldron, the labrum, resting on a stone pedestal. Steam rises from it in steady plumes, fed constantly by attendants who draw boiling water from the hypostas furnaces below. The Romans were nothing if not precise with temperature. Warm enough to purify, but not enough to harm. The balance is delicate and deliberate, much like everything they built. A young attendant, bare-chested and glistening with sweat, moves through the haze carrying a copper ladle. He offers a small scoop of hot water to pour over your arms, and when he does, the sensation is astonishing, almost searing at first, then deeply soothing, as though your skin were being rewritten. You exhale slowly, and your breath blends with the mist. Around you, the bathers sit in silence or murmur softly, voices muffled by the humidity. Some lean against the walls, their eyes closed, heads tilted back toward the ceiling. The dripping water forms a steady rhythm, like a clock slowed to half its speed. The heat seems to dissolve sound as much as it does tension. This was more than luxury in Roman eyes. It was hygiene, ritual, and even philosophy. They believed the caldarium purified not only the body, but the temperament, burning away restlessness and leaving clarity behind. For them, sweat was symbolic. It meant the excesses of life, the fatigue, the anxieties, leaving through the pores. You lift your hand, watching droplets form and roll down your forearm, catching the orange light. The entire room glows with that color, the kind of warmth that feels eternal. The Romans built with intention. They used polished marble and gilded fixtures to reflect and amplify the heat, creating the illusion of being inside a living flame. You recall that Roman engineers calculated airflow in these chambers with astonishing precision. They placed vents high above to let steam escape gradually, ensuring circulation. The praefurnium, the great furnace, would be stoked constantly by slaves, who labored unseen in tunnels beneath the floors, feeding the system that sustained all this comfort. Their world existed in shadow so that others could bask in light. The thought adds a quiet melancholy to the perfection around you. You rest your head against the wall, feeling the pulse of heat seep through the marble and into your neck. Every muscle loosens in response. There's no need for movement here, no conversation, no thought, just the steady surrender of the body to warmth. Nearby, someone dips a strigil, a small curved scraper, into a bowl of oil. They glide it slowly along their arm, removing the sweat and oil in a single motion. The metal flashes briefly in the light before disappearing back into shadow. The ritual is almost meditative, an act of cleansing more symbolic than practical. In the corner, two friends are laughing quietly, comparing whose back has turned redder from the heat. Their words are thick with mirth and steam, echoing softly against the stone dome. Even in such intensity, the Romans found room for camaraderie. You can feel your pulse in your fingertips now, a steady rhythm echoing through the veins. Your mind begins to drift again, half awake, half dreaming. The heat does that. It blurs the line between thought and sensation. You wonder how many thousands of people have sat exactly where you are now, across centuries. Senators and soldiers, merchants and slaves, all equalized by the same humidity, all shedding the dust of their days in the same glowing air. It is said that Emperor Caracalla, whose vast baths could hold over 1,600 people at once, would visit this chamber not just for comfort, but for meditation. Perhaps he too found this strange unity in the fog, this illusion of equality born from shared heat and breath. You take another long breath. The air enters heavy, almost syrupy. When you exhale, it feels like releasing more than carbon. Something deeper leaves with it, tension you didn't realize was stored in your chest. The room demands honesty from the body. Across from you, the labrum catches your eye again. A young man approaches it, scoops a handful of steaming water, and pours it slowly over his head. His eyes close, face tilted upward, droplets streaming down in rivulets. The image is almost sacred, baptism without gods, purification by design. The Romans didn't need mythology to find transcendence. They built it from stone and heat. You think of how carefully they orchestrated this experience. Even the path through the baths, cold to warm to hot to cold again, mirrored natural cycles of tension and release, of contraction and expansion. It was, in a sense, a physical philosophy. To live well was to balance extremes, to know heat so you could appreciate coolness, to endure effort so you could savor rest. The sound of a door opening cuts softly through the mist. A faint current of cooler air enters, and for a brief moment, you can see farther across the room. The walls shimmer with their mosaic patterns, small tesserae forming scenes of sea creatures and mythic swimmers. Dolphins leap through stylized waves, and nereids ride chariots pulled by hippocamps. The artistry is exquisite, even under centuries of imagined heat. You imagine the artisans hunched over these designs centuries ago, pressing each tile into place, unaware that their work would one day be studied in museums, admired by people who could barely fathom the lives that once filled this chamber. The steam thickens again, the images blur, and you are left with only the sensation of breathing in warmth itself. When you finally stand, your skin feels different, cleansed, supple, humming with quiet energy. You can see the exit arch faintly ahead, and through it, the next stage awaits, the frigidarium, the cold plunge that completes the Roman cycle. You take one last look around. The caldarium hums softly, its heat eternal, its air golden. Somewhere beneath your feet, the fires continue to burn, tended by unseen hands. You wonder if they ever feel the warmth themselves, or if they live entirely in shadow. You step forward, your body glistening, the air cooling slightly as you near the doorway. The heavy humidity begins to thin, replaced by a crisp undercurrent that hints of what's coming next. Your pulse quickens, part anticipation, part instinct. The Romans understood this balance perfectly. No warmth without cold, no rest without contrast. Every sensation gains meaning only beside its opposite. With one final breath of the thick, perfumed steam, you cross the threshold. The heat falls away behind you like a curtain. Ahead, a blue shimmer waits, the cold pool that will shock you awake again, that will remind you what it means to feel truly alive. The moment you step away from the caldarium, the air feels startlingly different, lighter, sharper, almost bracing. A faint trail of steam still clings to your skin, turning you into a ghost drifting down the marble corridor. The noise changes too. Where the caldarium was muffled, humming with thick heat, this next space carries the soft ring of metal and the scrape of strigils on oiled flesh. You've entered the descriptarium, the place of scraping and oiling, where Romans performed what might be the strangest, most intimate part of their ritual cleansing. Here, bodies glisten in the lamplight, half shrouded by thin tendrils of mist rising from nearby pools. The air smells of olive oil, sweat, and something faintly herbal, perhaps rosemary or myrtle. You find a bench and sit, your skin still flushed from the heat. A slave approaches, holding a small bronze vessel of oil. He pours a thin stream into his palm and gestures for you to do the same. The liquid feels cool and smooth, slipping easily across your arms, your chest, your shoulders. It glows faintly in the lamplight, accenting every muscle and contour. For a moment, you look like a statue given life. Oiling wasn't just about vanity. The Romans believed it sealed the pores, protecting the skin from dirt and the extremes of temperature. It was both practical and aesthetic, a mixture of hygiene and pride. The oil itself was precious, pressed from olives in Campania or Hispania, sometimes infused with saffron, lavender, or cinnamon for the wealthy. You imagine the difference between the oils of a senator and those of a soldier. One might smell of imported luxury, the other of the plain countryside. Now comes the curious part. The attendant produces a strigil, a small curved scraper of bronze. It gleams wickedly under the lamplight, though its purpose is gentle. You extend your arm, and he begins. Long, practiced strokes that scrape the oil, sweat, and dirt from your skin. The sensation is peculiar, half tickle, half massage. The strigil collects a grimy residue that's both revolting and satisfying to watch being wiped away. You realize this is the Roman equivalent of a deep cleanse, the kind of bodily reset that leaves you feeling light and new. The mixture of oil and dirt, once scraped off, was sometimes collected in a small bowl. Oddly enough, that residue, called smegma by the Romans, was occasionally sold as a cosmetic ingredient. Wealthy women supposedly used it to soften their skin. You try not to think too hard about that as another swipe of the strigil glides across your shoulder. Historians still argue whether everyone submitted to this ritual in the same way, whether slaves performed the scraping for their masters, or whether ordinary bathers simply did it for themselves. Some suggest it was a social equalizer. Others think it reinforced hierarchy, the powerful reclining in ease while others tended to their bodies. The truth, as with many Roman customs, probably shifted depending on one's class and the mood of the day. You take the strigil into your own hand now. The bronze feels pleasantly warm, and when you scrape it down your forearm, it leaves a faint red line that quickly fades. The action is oddly rhythmic, slow, satisfying, hypnotic. You start to understand why this part of the ritual was done without hurry. It isn't just about cleanliness, it's about pacing the body between extremes of heat and cold, between exertion and rest. Around you, the atmosphere is subdued but intimate. A few bathers joke quietly as they work, their laughter punctuated by the metallic sound of scraping. One man boasts about the strength of his new strigil, claiming it's been blessed by a physician from Pergamum. Another teases him that he's simply too hairy for any tool to survive the job. Their laughter ripples softly through the chamber, blending with the faint trickle of water somewhere in the distance. You can't help but smile. Even here, where everyone is stripped of armor, cloth, and pretense, the Romans find something to compete over. Cleanliness becomes a social art form. As you continue scraping, your thoughts wander. You imagine the famous athletes of the amphitheater performing the same motions before competitions, coating themselves in oil, removing every trace of dust before presenting their shining bodies to the crowds. The line between hygiene, health, and spectacle was thin in Rome. When the scraping is done, your skin feels renewed, smooth, almost electric to the touch. The attendant hands you a clean linen cloth, and you dab away the last film of oil. The heat from the caldarium has retreated now, leaving behind a comfortable warmth that lingers like memory. Some bathers at this stage choose a massage, another ritual entirely. A man nearby lies face down while an attendant kneads his shoulders with oiled hands. The rhythm is slow, methodical, and almost musical. Each press of the thumb follows the breath, rising and falling. The Romans, surprisingly, understood muscle relaxation well. They even had words for it: frictio for rubbing, pressio for pressure. The physician Galen wrote entire treatises about the proper techniques of massage and their effect on the humors of the body. Still, not every Roman approved of this indulgence. The Stoics, those professional buzzkills of antiquity, warned against becoming too attached to luxury. They argued that scraping and oiling were fine in moderation, but could make a man soft of spirit. You imagine Seneca sitting uncomfortably in the corner, muttering about virtue, while everyone else enjoys a back rub. A quirkier custom catches your attention. Some Romans sprinkled fine sand, or even powdered pumice over their oiled skin before scraping. The abrasiveness supposedly improved exfoliation. Imagine that, a civilization advanced enough to build aqueducts, yet still experimenting with what amounts to ancient spa scrubs. You picture a wealthy matron comparing notes with her friends about the best sand texture. Personally, I prefer the grain from the shores of Ostia, more invigorating, darling. You pause a moment, watching the way the oil catches the light on your forearm. The glow reminds you of the mosaics you saw earlier, shimmering with similar tones. Everything here, the oil, the marble, the bronze, was designed to reflect and refract. The Romans lived in a world that celebrated gleam, a civilization obsessed with the sheen of perfection. The attendant offers a final rinse, a small bucket of warm water poured gently over your shoulders. The sensation is blissful, like the soft punctuation mark at the end of a long sentence. The water runs down your back and legs, carrying away the last traces of oil and fatigue. You stand now, lighter, more awake. Your skin tingles faintly in the cooler air. The sound of splashing water grows louder from the next room, drawing your attention forward. It's time for the next phase, the frigidarium, the cold plunge that balances all this heat and oil. Before you go, you glance back at the bench where others continue their scraping, their movements slow and deliberate. The space feels like a workshop for the human body, a place where each surface, tool, and motion serves the same quiet goal: to return the body to harmony. As you walk toward the doorway, your bare feet leave faint, oily prints on the marble floor, already beginning to fade in the lamplight. You think about how many millions of such footprints once passed through these halls. You wonder if the floor remembers them, if the stones carry some residue of all those lives, just as the strigil carried the residue of your own body moments ago. There's something both humbling and comforting in that thought, that every act of cleansing leaves a trace behind, even if invisible. The corridor opens ahead, revealing the faint shimmer of water lit by torchlight. The air cools further, brushing across your skin like a whisper. You feel your muscles brace instinctively, knowing what's next. The Roman version of a wake-up call, cold enough to jolt even the most languid bather back to the present. You take one last deep breath, the scent of olive oil still clinging faintly to your hands. Somewhere behind you, the soft scrape of strigils continues, metallic and soothing. Then you step forward toward the cold. The corridor narrows as you approach the frigidarium. Each breath draws in air that feels fresher, sharper, a complete contrast to the thick warmth you've just left behind. Your skin, still damp and glowing from oil and steam, prickles in anticipation. You can already hear it, the gentle lapping of cold water, echoing faintly off marble walls. The Romans designed this transition deliberately, a sensory cliff between comfort and shock. You step through the archway, and the temperature drops at once. It's not freezing, but crisp enough to steal your breath for a heartbeat. The air here smells faintly mineral, like mountain springs or fresh rain after a dry spell. The soundscape is calmer than the steamy chaos of the caldarium, more restrained, dignified. You can almost hear the echo of dripping water counting the seconds. The frigidarium is a marvel of design. The pool stretches wide, surrounded by white marble steps that gleam under the filtered light. The surface of the water mirrors the ceiling's intricate mosaics, scenes of dolphins, seashells, and tritons frozen mid-splash. Statues of nymphs pour trickles of water into the pool from elegant jugs, their faces serene. The Romans didn't just build a cold bath, they built a sanctuary to contrast the furnace of the caldarium. You approach the edge, toes meeting the water. Instinct tells you to hesitate, and you do. It looks deceptively calm, but the faint mist hovering above it warns you it's not. You take a deep breath. You've come this far, through the warmth, the oil, the scraping. What's a little cold between friends and emperors? You step in. The chill slices through you instantly, an electric shock that grips your lungs and demands an exhale. You gasp, then laugh under your breath. The water climbs up your legs, your torso, until you're submerged waist deep. Every nerve fires awake. The sensation is brutal for a moment, but then, strangely, liberating. It's as though the heat and heaviness of the previous rooms have burned away everything unnecessary, and now the cold sharpens what's left. The Romans swore by this part of the ritual. They believed the cold sealed the pores, refreshed the body, and, depending on whom you asked, restored the soul. Ancient physicians like Galen recommended alternating between hot and cold baths to balance the humors, that elusive harmony of blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile that supposedly governed health. To you, it just feels like an ancient spa version of Wake Up. As you move deeper, you notice other bathers around you. Some stand in quiet stoicism, others splash water playfully at their friends. A group of soldiers is laughing, their teeth chattering as they dunk each other like mischievous brothers. One particularly muscular man bellows dramatically every time he dips below the surface, earning a ripple of laughter from nearby spectators. It's oddly reassuring, this mix of suffering and joy. Even emperors, senators, and philosophers couldn't escape the cold bite of the frigidarium. The icy plunge was the great equalizer. Every bather, no matter how powerful, gasped the same way. Historians still argue whether the frigidarium was meant primarily for health or pleasure. Some sources describe it as medicinal, a way to close the pores and invigorate the blood after sweating in the hot room. Others think it was mostly symbolic, a physical reminder of discipline and moderation. After all, nothing says I am in control of my body and my will quite like voluntarily stepping into near-freezing water. You sink a little lower, letting the chill embrace your shoulders. The contrast is exquisite, almost addictive. The marble beneath your fingers feels slick and solid, grounding you. You tilt your head back, watching the ceiling's mosaic shimmer above. The light refracts through the moving water, making the dolphins seem to dance. Somewhere nearby, an attendant tosses a small handful of herbs into the pool, mint perhaps, or crushed laurel. The faint scent sharpens the air. You realize the Romans were early experimenters in aromatherapy. They believed certain scents could energize or calm the mind. Cold mint for alertness, lavender for rest, myrrh for purification. You smile, wondering how different that really is from modern bath bombs and spa oils. The packaging has changed, but the impulse hasn't. This is what the gods must feel when they wake. You're not sure about the theology, but it's a lovely sentiment. The cold seems to reset everything: body, mood, even memory. You notice a small alcove at the edge of the chamber where a narrow waterfall trickles down from a sculpted lion's head. You wade toward it, curiosity outweighing comfort. The water spills in a narrow stream, shockingly colder than the pool itself. You duck your head beneath it for a second, just enough to feel the full sting, and come up sputtering and laughing quietly at your own bravery. A few nearby bathers nod approvingly. Apparently, that counts as a small triumph here. Romans believed the cold plunge improved vigor and virility. Physicians wrote that it tightened the skin, cleared the mind, and, rather questionably, made one more resistant to laziness. Whether or not any of that's true, you can certainly feel your heart hammering with new energy. There's an almost ritualistic quality to how the bathers exit the water. No one rushes. They linger for a few moments, savoring the afterglow, the faint numbness that gives way to warmth as blood returns to the surface. A kind of quiet pride lingers too, as if each person has proven something to themselves. You climb out, the water cascading from your skin in silver ribbons. The marble floor feels colder now, but your body is humming with inner warmth. An attendant offers a towel, soft, thick linen, and you wrap yourself in it, grateful for the contrast. You watch the others, studying the choreography of this ancient self-care routine. A man dips back in for a second round, emerging with an expression halfway between pain and ecstasy. Two friends lounge by the edge, discussing politics as casually as if they were at a cafe. You catch the name Hadrian and a few phrases about taxes before their voices fade into the soft splash of water. It's strange to think that deals were once sealed in this very room. Fortunes changed, alliances formed, all while half-naked men shivered politely together. The frigidarium wasn't just a bath, it was a stage for Roman society at its most vulnerable and honest. You dry your arms slowly, feeling the air's coolness mellow into comfort. Somewhere deeper in the complex, you hear faint music, perhaps a lyre or flute from the relaxation hall. The baths weren't only for cleansing, they were for existing, for savoring the art of doing nothing well. As you sit for a moment on the edge of the pool, a memory of the caldarium's heat flickers faintly on your skin. The cycle feels complete now. Sweat and steam, oil and scrape, shock and renewal. You realize that the Romans, in their obsession with balance, understood something timeless, that contrast is what makes comfort meaningful. You glance at the rippling water one last time. The reflections seem almost alive, a mosaic shifting with the light. The statues around the pool watch silently, frozen mid-pour. Perhaps, in some way, they envy you, the living bather moving between worlds of heat and cold, still able to feel. As you prepare to leave, a final droplet rolls down your wrist, tracing a perfect path before falling soundlessly to the floor. The simple beauty of it catches you off guard. Everything here, the architecture, the ritual, even the discomfort, was designed to remind Romans of their own aliveness. And now, thoroughly awake, skin tingling, you turn toward the next part of the journey. The water still murmurs behind you, whispering of renewal as the air grows warmer again. Ahead lies the hum of conversation, the mingling sense of perfume and oil, and perhaps a cup of spiced wine waiting by the fire. But for now, as you walk away from the frigidarium, every step feels lighter. You've been burned clean, scraped smooth, and shocked awake. You are, in the truest Roman sense of the word, puros, pure. As you leave the cool quiet of the frigidarium, a soft hum begins to reach your ears again, distant at first, then growing stronger. The faint crackle of fires, the low hiss of steam, the rhythmic clang of metal tools. You follow the corridor, and soon the true heart of the Roman bath reveals itself. Not a place of relaxation, but of engineering brilliance. The warmth that seeps up through your bare feet now doesn't come from sunlight or open flame. It comes from below, from the hypocaust, the great underfloor heating system that powered every bathhouse in Rome. The Romans, never ones to settle for half measures, turned bathing into a technological wonder. You pause, curious, and glance through a small service archway where the heat workers, usually slaves or freedmen, move like silhouettes in the furnace light. Down here is another world entirely. Low brick corridors filled with roaring fires, smoke, and the smell of burning olive wood. The air shimmers with heat. Men shovel fuel into the great praefurnium, their backs glistening with sweat, faces blackened by soot. They are the unseen engines of comfort, the quiet workers who keep Rome's luxuries alive. You crouch to look closer, tracing the layout with your eyes. The floors above you rest on hundreds of small brick pillars, creating a hollow chamber beneath. Through this space, hot air from the furnaces circulates freely, warming the stone floors and the lower parts of the walls. Thin clay pipes run upward, carrying heat and smoke through the structure and venting it out of the domed ceilings. The entire system breathes like a living creature, drawing in air, exhaling warmth, maintaining perfect equilibrium. Historians still argue whether the idea for the hypocaust originated in Rome itself or was adapted from Greek or even Persian designs. Whatever the case, the Romans perfected it. They used it not only in baths, but also in villas and temples. You think about that for a moment. How someone 2,000 years ago might have walked barefoot across a warm floor on a winter morning and felt the same quiet pleasure you feel now. You continue walking, the floor gently radiating beneath you. The engineering extends far beyond what lies underfoot. The water that flows through the baths comes from aqueducts, miles of precisely angled stone channels that carry fresh water from distant springs. The nearest one here might have come from a mountain stream half a day's ride away, flowing across valleys and arches to reach this place. Gravity alone does the work. No pumps, no machinery, just math, stone, and patience. You can almost picture the aqueduct's arches marching across the countryside, elegant and tireless. Each arch supports the next, carrying water inch by inch toward the city. At its end, the stream splits into smaller pipes made of lead, clay, or bronze, feeding not just the baths, but fountains, gardens, and private homes. Rome was a city of water in motion, a place where the sound of trickling was as common as birdsong. You pass a small maintenance chamber where a thin stream of water flows through a marble trough. The constant movement glimmers like silver in the lamplight. It's astonishing how modern it feels, like stepping behind the scenes of some high-end spa, only older, grander, and infinitely more handmade. A curious thought crosses your mind. All this engineering, all this control of fire and water exists just to make relaxation possible. It's a reminder that comfort is never effortless. It's built, maintained, and fueled, often by unseen hands. You wonder if any of the noble bathers above ever thought about the men in the tunnels below, stoking the flames to keep their floors warm. Further along the corridor, you notice a tall bronze door slightly ajar. Through it lies a narrow passage filled with pipes and jars. The walls are lined with terracotta tubes, tubuli, that carry hot air upward. You touch one and it's warm, humming softly with the pulse of the system. You can almost hear the whisper of air moving through it. It's strange to think that these same methods are still used today in modern heating systems. The Romans, in their pursuit of pleasure, invented central heating 2 millennia early. You can't help but smile at that. Somewhere between empire and engineering, they stumbled upon comfort as an art form. Above you, faintly, you hear laughter echoing from the main halls. The contrast is striking. Up there, relaxation and conversation. Down here, fire and sweat. It's a perfect microcosm of Roman society. Luxury on the surface, labor beneath. Yet, in its own way, both sides are essential. The warmth of the tepidarium, the steam of the caldarium, the shimmering pools, they all depend on this underground orchestra of fire and water. You climb a narrow stairwell, emerging back into the main halls where attendants bustle about with buckets and towels. The air grows warmer again, and the faint mineral scent of the pools replaces the smoky tang of the furnace chambers. A small bronze plaque catches your eye. It bears the emblem of the Curator Balnearum, the official responsible for maintaining the baths. Every large complex had one, a kind of ancient facilities manager. You can imagine the responsibility. Ensuring the water flowed, the fires burned evenly, and the rooms stayed at precisely the right temperature. There's a peculiar romance in that precision. Every bathhouse was a symphony of control. Fire, water, air, stone, all in perfect dialogue. You think of Vitruvius, the Roman architect, who wrote about how baths should face the sun at the right angle, and how walls should be built with special cavities to hold warmth. The Romans didn't just bathe, they engineered relaxation itself. You pause beside a decorative fountain, where warm water spills from the mouth of a marble dolphin. The pool beneath it ripples with tiny bubbles, fed by a hidden pipe. You dip your hand in. The temperature is perfect, neither hot nor cold, just comfortably alive. A group of children plays nearby, splashing each other gently, their laughter blending with the murmur of adults discussing trade, politics, and dinner plans. It occurs to you that this entire building, this feat of hydraulic genius, was not only about cleansing, but also about connection. The baths were the heart of the city, where engineering served humanity rather than mere survival. Every arch, every pipe, every brick was placed so that people could come together, relax, and remember that they were part of something vast and shared. A quirky fact flickers into your mind. Some Roman bath complexes even had heating schedules posted on tablets, noting when the furnaces would be hottest and when the water would be freshest. Imagine checking the bath forecast before deciding when to visit, like ancient social media updates for comfort seekers. You walk slowly through another archway, this one lined with murals of water nymphs and river gods. The art celebrates the very forces that make this place possible. Streams, springs, fountains, the endless generosity of nature tamed by human hands. You can't help but feel a deep respect for the ingenuity here. Rome might have conquered nations, but its true empire was over the elements. You rest your hand against a warm wall and close your eyes. Beneath the marble, you can feel the low thrum of the hypocaust, the heartbeat of the building. The heat rises softly through the stone, and you imagine the fires burning far below, the flames licking upward through the hollow floors, the air weaving between the pillars like invisible rivers. It's beautiful in a way, how something as primal as fire and as fluid as water come together here to serve a single human need, the desire to feel at ease in one's own skin. When you open your eyes again, the path ahead glows golden in the lamplight. The baths stretch on, their mechanisms humming quietly behind the walls, never resting, always adjusting. Somewhere nearby, an attendant pours fresh oil into a basin. Somewhere else, a furnace worker wipes sweat from his brow. Each unseen action sustains the illusion of effortless peace above. You take a slow breath. The air feels different now that you understand its source. Every curl of steam, every trickle of warmth carries with it the weight of architecture, labor, and genius. You walk on, the faint vibration of the hypocast still underfoot, thinking that perhaps this was Rome's truest legacy, not conquest or law or art, but the idea that comfort itself could be engineered, that peace could be built brick by brick, heat by heat. You step back into the brighter part of the complex, where the air hums with gentle voices and the soft slosh of moving water. The tepidarium has done its work. Your body feels loose, your pulse steady, and now, as the warmth deepens, the next stage of your Roman bathing ritual awaits, the caldarium, the hot room. The doorway glows like an ember. Steam curls lazily around its edges, and as you push through, the heat wraps you instantly, thick and enveloping, like being hugged by sunlight itself. Your lungs tighten for a second, then adjust, finding rhythm in the moist air. The marble underfoot is slick with condensation, and your reflection dances faintly across the floor's glossy surface. The caldarium is the heart of the Roman bathhouse, the steamy sanctuary where pores open, muscles melt, and conversation turns slow and languid. The architecture here is simple but powerful. A domed ceiling to trap the heat, bronze mirrors to reflect the glow of oil lamps, and alcoves filled with marble basins where attendants ladle warm water over bathers' shoulders. A wave of heat pulses through the room as another worker stokes the furnace below. The floor radiates like a sun-baked terrace, but it never burns, just a consistent liquid warmth that seems to seep into your bones. The air smells faintly of olive oil and resinous herbs. Someone has tossed bay leaves into the hot water, and the steam carries that soft forest scent upward. You find a spot near a basin and lower yourself onto the bench, feeling the stone's warmth cradle your skin. Droplets gather on your arms and forehead, slipping down like rain. You glance across the room. A few men are reclining in the mist, talking lazily about gladiator games, or grain prices, or the emperor's latest decree. Their words drift like smoke, slow and formless. You pick up a small bronze bowl and scoop some warm water over your shoulders. The sensation is instant bliss. Your skin tangles, your breathing slows. This is the part where the mind begins to wander. The heat dulls the edges of thought until everything feels round and fluid. You can see why Romans adored this place, not just for cleanliness, but for surrender. Historians still argue whether the caldarium was primarily for cleansing or for ritual relaxation. Some point to ancient texts describing bathers applying oil and scraping it away with strigils here. Others claim the real cleaning happened afterward in the cooler rooms. Either way, you realize it probably didn't matter much to the average Roman. The act itself, pouring, soaking, sweating, was its own kind of devotion. You tilt your head back, watching the ceiling disappear into mist. High above, a round opening, the oculus, lets in a faint beam of daylight, like a soft white rope tying this hot, enclosed world to the sky. The Romans understood atmosphere. They could manipulate not just temperature, but mood. Everything here, the echo, the glow, the humidity, was designed to make you forget about the outside world entirely. A trickle of water runs from your hairline to your temple. You swipe it away lazily. Across the room, a young attendant moves between bathers, carrying a jug of scented oil. He pours a little onto each person's palms. Rosemary for the joints, sage for the skin, lavender for calm. You rub a small amount onto your arms, and the oil immediately warms against your body, turning to a fine sheen. A curious historical tidbit surfaces in your thoughts. Some bathers believed this heat purged not just sweat, but bad humors, the invisible imbalances thought to cause illness. A kind of ancient detox, if you will. In a sense, it worked. Sweating here for an hour could do wonders for sore muscles after a long march or a day in the forum. You wonder if that's why Roman doctors often prescribed bathing and rest for almost everything. Cough? Bath. Melancholy? Bath. Existential dread about the fall of civilization? Definitely bath. The marble pillars glisten with condensation. You trace your fingers along one and feel the vibration from the hypocaust below, a faint heartbeat of warmth. Somewhere under your feet, the slaves tending the furnaces keep the fires alive, adjusting the air vents and shoveling more wood. You imagine the rhythmic labor, hour after hour, while above them, people drift in clouds of luxury. It's both unsettling and awe-inspiring, the literal layers of society built into stone. For a moment, you let the heat consume your awareness entirely. The edges of your vision blur. The conversation around you fades into a low hum. You could fall asleep right here, if not for the ever-present glisten of sweat reminding you you're alive. You catch a glimpse of your reflection again in a bronze mirror, and notice how soft everything looks. Your hair flattened by humidity, your skin gleaming under the golden light. You almost laugh. Even the mirrors here seem to flatter. Then, an attendant gestures toward a marble basin in the center of the room. Inside, a small pool of near-boiling water bubbles gently, constantly fed by the same hypocaust system. This is where bathers dip towels or mix in cooler water for their preferred temperature. You walk over, feeling your skin prick with the rising heat as you lean above the steam. The basin's surface ripples like molten glass. You dip your hand in just enough to feel the intensity, a sharp sting followed by a strange calm. You understand why the Romans saw bathing as almost spiritual. It demanded attention, sensation, presence. The same culture that built aqueducts and roads also built temples of steam, where every citizen, from senator to soldier, could dissolve into the same warmth. You pour a scoop over your shoulders again, shivering slightly as the heat slides down your back. The oil on your skin glows under the lamplight. A nearby bather stretches and sighs, muttering something about Jupiter's mercy on a cold morning. You nod faintly, not sure if he's speaking to you or the room itself. A historian once noted that the caldarium was like the Roman equalizer. Once inside, everyone looked roughly the same. Sweaty, half-naked, stripped of status symbols. You could be a senator or a baker, and no one would know. Perhaps that was the real genius of the baths, not just comfort, but anonymity. You think about that as you close your eyes, your breathing syncing with the soft rhythm of dripping condensation. Somewhere in the haze, a small group begins to hum, a wordless tune, low and resonant. The sound vibrates through the dome, multiplying in gentle echoes. It's hypnotic, soothing, timeless. You lose yourself in it for a while, drifting between wakefulness and trance. Then, as if on cue, an attendant rings a small bronze bell. It's the soft reminder that time here isn't infinite, that heat, like all good things, must eventually give way to coolness. You open your eyes slowly, the world around you still shimmering slightly. You rise from the bench, your body coated in a fine sheen of oil and sweat. As you move, tiny streams trickle down your arms. Your muscles feel loose, your joints effortless. The air seems heavier now, thicker, as though it's gently urging you onward. A narrow archway leads out of the caldarium and toward the next room. You can see a faint mist ahead, cooler, thinner, like a promise. The laconicum waits, the dry heat chamber meant to balance what you've just experienced. Before you step through, you glance back one last time. The room glows softly, every surface alive with moisture and light. You can almost hear the ancient heartbeat of Rome in the rhythm of dripping water and shifting steam. You think about how, centuries ago, someone else stood here just like this, sweating, breathing, marveling at the sheer luxury of warmth in a world without electricity or modern convenience. If time travel ever existed, this might be the most comfortable layover spot imaginable. You take one last deep breath of humid air, tasting salt and herbs and stone. The warmth lingers like a soft whisper against your skin. Then you step forward, ready for the next transformation. The dry heat, the final cleansing, and perhaps the quiet satisfaction of knowing you've just lived one small piece of Rome's eternal rhythm. You move through the archway into a space where the atmosphere changes almost imperceptibly at first. The air here feels drier, warmer, and heavier, less like steam, more like a blanket of soft heat that presses gently against your skin. This is the laconicum, the Roman dry heat chamber, a room built for lingering, for gentle sweat, for meditation in warmth unbroken by water. The floor beneath your feet radiates evenly, and the walls, polished smooth with marble, reflect a subdued glow from oil lamps carefully placed around the room. As you take a few tentative steps forward, you notice how still the space feels compared to the steamy chaos of the caldarium. Here, silence is a participant. Every footstep echoes softly, but there's no rush, no murmur of conversation, except for the occasional low sigh of a bather reclining against the warm marble. You sense immediately that this room is designed for the mind as much as for the body, a place where heat becomes contemplative. You find a bench along the curved wall and settle into it. The warmth creeps into your muscles gradually, deeper than before, pulling tension out of your back, your shoulders, your neck. You lean back, closing your eyes, and for the first time in the bathing cycle, the sense of external time seems to blur. Minutes stretch lazily into one another. The gentle hum of heat underfoot, the hypocaust's quiet heartbeat, fills your awareness. Historians still argue whether the Laconicum was originally inspired by Greek practices or purely a Roman invention, but whatever its origin, the purpose is clear: to purify the body through sustained dry heat, and, perhaps more subtly, to encourage the mind to settle. You exhale slowly, feeling the moisture of your earlier baths evaporate completely, leaving skin tingling and warm in an almost imperceptible glow. Around you, others are moving with a slow, deliberate grace. A man stretches his arms overhead, muscles glistening faintly as they catch the lamplight. A woman rolls her shoulders and lets out a soft hum of satisfaction. It's remarkable how still yet alive the room feels. No splashes, no scraping of strigils, just heat and the human body responding to it. You notice a peculiar detail. The Roman architects built the walls with subtle indentations and alcoves. These weren't merely decorative. The recesses helped circulate the hot air, ensuring no corner of the room became stagnant or cooler than the rest. Even in this ancient space, the Romans were obsessed with precision, balance, and comfort. You wonder how many modern spa designers could learn from this quiet engineering marvel. In one alcove, someone has placed a small bundle of dried herbs, mint, rosemary, and bay leaves. You inhale softly. The fragrance mixes with the natural warmth, creating a faintly medicinal, faintly intoxicating aroma. This wasn't just indulgence. The Romans believed that certain scents could aid the body's humors, restore balance, and even invigorate the spirit. You tilt your head, letting the scent drift through your nostrils, and it seems to settle into your very lungs, easing both body and mind. A quirky custom from history floats into your thoughts. Some bathers used to carry small, flat sponges soaked in wine or vinegar to dab at their temples and wrists while in the Laconicum. This was believed to cool certain points of the body while the rest sweated freely, a kind of proto-acupressure meets aromatherapy. You imagine how odd it must have felt, the mingling scents of herbs, sweat, oil, and vinegar all coexisting in a single heated space. You exhale, feeling your pulse slow, and realize that this is perhaps the only room in the baths where the sense of control belongs entirely to the bather. No attendants approach to scrape or pour, no loud splashes, no urgent temperatures. Just you, the heat, and the quiet architecture of comfort. The room itself seems to encourage introspection. Historians still argue whether the Laconicum was primarily for relaxation or for therapeutic sweating. Some texts suggest it was used to treat ailments like arthritis or gout, as the prolonged heat could soothe inflamed joints. Others claim it was more about ritual purification and the luxury of endurance, the satisfaction of remaining seated in heat until the body sweated fully, then moving to the cold plunge for balance. Either way, you feel a sense of deliberate patience settling into your mind. You glance at the mosaic on the dome overhead. Even in this quiet space, the Romans never ceased to delight in art. Stylized waves and mythical water spirits shimmer faintly in the lamplight, an eternal reminder of the water that powers the baths. It's strange how the imagery blends with the heat. the coolness of water depicted above you, and the hot air pressing against your skin below, a constant contrast that the Romans clearly appreciated. The bench beneath you feels pleasantly hot, radiating warmth steadily. You shift slightly, stretching your legs, feeling the stone's even support. There is a subtle rhythm here. Inhale, exhale, pulse, warmth, heartbeat. It's almost impossible to distinguish where your body ends and the room begins. You lean back fully, resting your head against the marble wall, and for a moment, you imagine floating, suspended in warmth, weightless, untroubled. A fellow bather nearby tilts their head and murmurs a phrase about health and vigor. You smile quietly, understanding the sentiment. Here, conversation is a soft accompaniment, a human undertone to the rhythm of heat and breath. The entire room seems to breathe with you, synchronizing the pulse of stone, air, and body into a subtle orchestra. You notice small beads of sweat forming along your hairline, trailing slowly down your neck. You let them drip freely, admiring the sensation of being thoroughly, completely alive in this controlled environment. It's remarkable to consider that something so simple, heat, can have such profound effects, not just on muscles or skin, but on mood, attention, and the very perception of time. Some bathers reach for a thin linen cloth to dab at their faces, while others simply let sweat roll freely. It's a gentle exercise in letting go, surrendering to the room's rhythm. The Romans understood this well. In the Laconicum, endurance and comfort coexist, teaching patience without ever feeling like discipline. You think briefly of the social dynamics here. While the caldarium was bustling with activity and the frigidarium shockingly egalitarian, the laconicum feels almost private despite being communal. Silence reigns, and in that quiet, the mind wanders freely. You can almost hear the echoes of centuries, philosophers musing, soldiers resting, merchants reflecting on deals, all softened by the same gentle heat you feel now. You exhale fully, letting your shoulders drop. Every nerve seems heightened and calmed at the same time. Even the faintest movements, the brush of your fingers against marble, the twitch of a toe against stone, feel magnified, deliberate. The room teaches mindfulness in an unspoken way. A playful thought crosses your mind. If a modern spa tried to replicate this, they would likely charge a fortune, sell scented oils, and insist on soft music. Yet the Romans did it naturally. Engineered space, steam, art, and warmth, perfectly balanced without gimmicks. You tilt your head back again, watching the ceiling shimmer in a gentle haze of heat. Somewhere beneath your feet, the hypocaust continues its quiet pulse, a reminder that even comfort is sustained by unseen effort. And here you are, warmed, relaxed, alert, aware. An observer of both human ingenuity and your own body's subtle responses. Eventually, the heat begins to seep a little too deeply. Your muscles hum pleasantly, and your skin tingles with exhaustion and renewal. You know the next step is near, leaving the Laconicum to re-enter the more social spaces of the baths, to rinse, to cool, and to begin the slow return to the ordinary world. But for now, in this perfect balance of dry warmth, you pause, savoring the sensation, letting every droplet of tension melt away and simply exist. You rise slowly from the marble bench, the residual warmth of the Laconicum clinging to your skin like a soft cloak. Each movement feels deliberate, almost ceremonial, as if stepping away from this chamber requires acknowledgement of the body's transformation. The air outside the room is cooler, less humid, and it greets you like a whisper, urging you forward to the next stage of the bath. You follow a broad corridor that leads toward the washing and rinsing areas where pools of warm water await those who have endured the heat. The architecture here transitions subtly. Marble remains underfoot, but the walls are lighter. mosaics depicting flowing rivers and fishing scenes instead of abstract geometric patterns. The Romans loved to integrate water imagery wherever bathing occurred, as if reminding every bather of the source of life itself. A gentle splash draws your attention. Bathers are dipping their hands and arms into shallow basins, pouring warm water over shoulders, rinsing away the residual sweat and oil from the caldarium and laconicum. You approach one, cupping the warm liquid and letting it glide over your forearms. The sensation is exquisite. The lingering heat is softened by the fresh flow, a transition both literal and symbolic, moving from intensity toward refreshment. Some attendants are busy with more intricate tasks. One carries a small jar of scented oil and a sponge, dabbing and patting at bathers' shoulders and necks. You notice the gentleness of the motions, slow, almost reverent. The Romans understood that care could be both functional and comforting, and here it is executed with quiet precision. Historians still debate whether these rinsing rituals were more about hygiene or social ritual. Some evidence suggests that frequent exposure to hot water and oils improved skin and eased joint pain. Others argue that the act itself was more symbolic, a purification of the body following exertion and endurance. Perhaps, like so many aspects of Roman life, it was both. You lean over one of the larger pools, submerging your hands and letting the warm water cascade down your arms. Tiny droplets scatter, sparkling in the lamplight. There is something hypnotic about the repetition. Dip, pour, rinse, repeat. Even without thought, your muscles relax further, and a subtle rhythm establishes itself within your body. Across the room, a small group of bathers is quietly conversating, their words soft, almost swallowed by the gentle lap of water. Someone mentions the grain shipments from Ostia. Another murmurs about the upcoming gladiatorial games, but the conversation is slow, lacking urgency, like a river meandering lazily through marble canyons. The room has a soothing egalitarianism. The heat and ritual reduce distinction, creating a shared experience rooted in bodily presence rather than social hierarchy. A quirky historical note flits across your mind with scented pastes made from ground herbs and fine sand, effectively creating an ancient exfoliating scrub. While it sounds peculiar, the practice was believed to stimulate circulation and improve skin texture, a curious precursor to modern spa treatments. You can imagine the faint earthy scent mixing with the aromatic oils, a fragrant layering of ancient hygiene. You pick up a small bronze basin, carrying warm water over your head. The droplets run down your hair, over your temples, down your spine. The sensation is nearly meditative. Every nerve seems to heighten, attuned to temperature, motion, and weightlessness. You notice the subtle tingling of heat giving way to a gentle coolness, a bodily punctuation marking the transition from intensity toward balance. Historians still argue about the etiquette of this stage. Did the Romans insist on complete privacy for rinsing, or was it acceptable to mingle freely? Archaeological evidence suggests both. In larger public baths, conversation and shared space were common, yet there are hints of smaller, more secluded basins for those seeking solitude. You reflect on the dual nature of the baths, communal yet intimate, social yet intensely personal. As you dip again, you notice the sheen left by residual oil. The water picks up the faint glimmer, swirling it gently, almost like liquid gold moving across marble. You feel a sense of satisfaction in watching your own cleansing, the visible evidence of transformation dissolving and flowing away. There is a small, quiet joy in this act, the recognition that effort, ritual, and patience produce tangible change. Nearby, a man dips his hands into the water and flicks a few droplets toward a friend who laughs softly, trying to dodge. The simplicity of this playfulness is grounding, reminding you that even in a place built for precision, engineering, and ritual, human spontaneity finds its space. You smile and feel the corners of tension in your shoulders release a little more. You take a slow, deep breath. The scent of warm water, olive oil, and herbs mingles in the air. Somewhere nearby, an attendant sprinkles crushed bay leaves into the basin, infusing the water with a soft, medicinal aroma. You close your eyes briefly, inhaling, and feel the subtle tingling of rejuvenation move through your chest and arms. Every inch of skin feels alive, responsive, aware of both warmth and moisture. A particularly amusing historical detail drifts to mind. Some bathers would even collect the water left in small basins to sprinkle on plants or use in gardening, believing the liquid carried residual health benefits. You chuckle quietly, imagining a Roman senator watering his laurel trees with post-bath runoff while contemplating civic duty. The thought lightens your mood, another small layer of humanity woven into the ritual. You lean back against the marble edge of the basin, letting your arms rest in the water. The sensation of floating slightly, of heat tempered by moisture, creates a unique comfort, a suspension between the extremes of dry heat and cold plunge. It's easy to see why Roman texts praised this stage. It blends the endurance of the laconicum with the sensory pleasure of a gentle rinse, creating harmony in body and mind. Around you, bathers begin to move toward the shallow steps of the next pool. You follow slowly, each footfall deliberate, the marble cool under your slightly softened skin. The rhythm is soothing. Step, pause, descend. Tiny ripples follow your movement, faint rings expanding across the water's surface. It's mesmerizing, a slow choreography dictated by gravity, temperature, and human habit. Finally, you lower yourself fully into a pool of warm water, allowing the liquid to envelop your torso. You feel buoyant, the marble beneath you distant, almost irrelevant. The water carries away the sweat, the oil, the traces of exertion, leaving only the clean, tingling vitality of your own body. You close your eyes and let the ripples rock your awareness, listening to the gentle hum of voices, the soft splash of water, the faint, distant pulse of the hypocus vibrating underfoot. As the warmth of the bath embraces you, you understand the genius of the ritual. Every stage, heat, cold, oil, scraping, rinse, builds upon the last. You've been coaxed through extremes, reminded of your own body, lulled into mindfulness. And now, here in this calm pool, you achieve equilibrium. The Romans weren't merely bathing, they were orchestrating a full sensory symphony, and you, willingly or not, are the instrument. You take one last scoop of water, pouring it over your shoulders, feeling the smooth cascade wash down your back. A slight shiver passes through your body, a gentle punctuation mark acknowledging the transformation you've undergone. In this quiet, ritualized liminality, you are both awake and relaxed, aware of every sensation, yet ready to drift into the slower rhythms of post-bathing leisure. You step out of the last warm pool, droplets clinging to your skin like tiny jewels in the soft light. The air here is cooler now, still moist but tempered, a gentle contrast that welcomes you back into motion. Your limbs feel fluid, supple, and aware. It is time for the final cleansing ritual before you move toward the communal relaxation spaces, the application of oils, scrapes, and the careful attention to every contour of your body. You notice the attendants moving efficiently, almost silently, carrying bronze basins, strigils, and small jars of fragrant oils. Their movements are precise, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. One gestures to you with a small smile, indicating readiness to begin. You nod, stepping onto the marble bench. Your skin glistens in the lamplight, a mix of residual water and the faint traces of earlier oil. The strigil, a curved metal tool, is placed in your hand. Its surface is smooth, almost cold to the touch. You press it against your arm, scraping away the mix of oil, sweat, and exfoliated skin. The sensation is strange at first, slightly abrasive, yet deeply satisfying. Each stroke reveals a subtle warmth underneath, a sense of cleansing that is both physical and strangely psychological. Historians still argue whether the primary purpose of the strigil was hygiene, health, or ritualistic purification. Ancient texts hinted all three. Some claimed it prevented skin disease, others believed it balanced humors, and still others suggested it was a necessary prelude to spiritual and social readiness. As you scrape along your forearm, you realize it may have been all of these things at once, a combination of practicality and performance. A nearby attendant offers a small jar of scented oil, thick and golden. You dip your fingers and begin to rub it across your shoulders and chest. The oil glides smoothly, filling the air with the delicate aroma of rosemary and laurel. The friction warms your skin further, sealing in the subtle moisture left from the pools. You feel a deep sense of completion, as if every stage of the bath, from steam to cold plunge, from dry heat to rinse, culminates here in this simple act of attentive care. The rhythm of application is mesmerizing. Each motion is deliberate. Stroke, press, rub, smooth. The oil warms as it blends with your skin, highlighting the contours of muscles, tracing the ridges of collarbones, the subtle slope of shoulders. You catch a glimpse of your reflection in a nearby bronze mirror. Your skin glows, your hair clings lightly to dampened nape and temples, and your posture feels lighter than it did an hour ago. There is an unmistakable sense of renewal. Some Roman bathers would mix perfumes with their oils, believing that subtle fragrance could not only please themselves, but subtly influence the social dynamics of the baths. Imagine the heady combination of lavender, rose, and myrrh circulating through these humid halls, mingling with the natural sense of human presence. You can almost detect the faint whisper of centuries past in the aromatic residue. You lower the strigil again, repeating the motion on your back, careful to reach each area. The scrape, followed by the smoothing oil, creates a gentle contrast, a sensory punctuation that heightens awareness of each muscle, each line of skin. It is meticulous work, almost meditative. The repetitive motion, paired with the ambient warmth and gentle hum of the space, lulls your mind toward a quiet, focused calm. Historians still debate the extent to which this final oiling was about vanity versus wellness. Some inscriptions suggest a bather's social standing could be subtly displayed through the richness of their oils or the precision of their strigil work. Yet there's also clear evidence that the practice had therapeutic intent, stimulating circulation, relieving muscle tension, and preparing the body for the cold plunge or tepid transition back to daily life. You think about how social performance and health were intertwined, just as they often are today, even in casual ways we might barely notice. As the final strokes of oil are applied, you notice the subtle sheen on the skin of your arms, the faint sparkle of light catching every contour. Your muscles hum with warmth, your joints feel loose, and your skin is taut and responsive. There's a gentle satisfaction in seeing the ritual completed, the deliberate care given to every part of your body. You run your fingers along your shoulders, noting the smoothness, the subtle warmth retained even as your body begins to acclimate to the air outside the pools. Nearby, a group of bathers is quietly discussing the day, the conversation low and unhurried. The tone of the room is reflective, intimate even, with no sense of urgency or distraction. You realize this is an extension of the ritual itself. The baths were designed to slow life down, to create space for contemplation, for small human connections, and for subtle joys. The simple act of scraping and oiling becomes part of a broader social choreography that balances personal care with communal presence. You pause for a moment, breathing in the warm, herb-scented air. The combination of heat, moisture, oil, and labor has left you in a state of exquisite awareness. Your muscles are relaxed yet engaged, your mind attentive yet calm. The world outside, with its noise and unpredictability, feels distant and muted. Here, you are fully present, surrendered to the careful orchestration of temperature, motion, and scent. A whimsical thought enters your mind, contemplating Cicero while simultaneously being scraped and oiled. Their arguments punctuated by the gentle hiss of dripping water and the warm embrace of stone. The juxtaposition is absurd and yet entirely human, reminding you that even in moments of refinement, life is a series of small, tactile absurdities. As you finish the final strokes of oil, you feel the subtle hum of the building beneath your feet, the hypostas continuing its quiet work, unseen yet essential. The entire complex, from furnace to pool, from dry heat to cooling mist, has orchestrated a journey for your body and mind. You are both participant and observer, witness to centuries of practice, labor, and ingenuity. Finally, you step back, allowing the attendants to tidy their instruments, their movements silent and graceful. You run your hands lightly over your arms and chest, noting the softness, the warmth, the sense of completeness. The bath has reached its crescendo. All stages, all contrasts, all rituals harmonized into a single profound sensation of well-being. As you move toward the next area, the gentle cool of the exit corridors, the smell of fresh air beyond the doors, you carry with you the memory of heat, water, oil, and meticulous care. You feel balanced, renewed, and quietly triumphant in having endured, participated in, and appreciated an ancient ritual designed with both precision and human delight. You leave the intimate ritual space of oils and scrapes behind and enter a long corridor that gently slopes toward the cooler areas of the bath complex. The air here is a tender compromise, not as hot as the Laconicum, not as humid as the caldarium, yet still carrying the faint residual warmth of the hypocast beneath your feet. It's a transitional space, designed for the body to adjust, to ease out of extreme heat before stepping fully into the open air or into cooler rooms. As you walk, the soft murmur of other bathers reaches your ears. Footsteps echo off the polished marble, interspersed with quiet laughter, the occasional splash, and the subdued scrape of strigils being cleaned and returned to attendants. This corridor, though simple in design, embodies the Roman philosophy of flow, a deliberate movement that carries you from one stage to the next without haste, allowing the body and mind to adapt. You pause at a wide doorway leading into a shallow pool, the tepidarium's cooler counterpart, sometimes called the piscina tepidaria. Here, the water is warm but not hot, soothing rather than intense. You dip a foot in, savoring the subtle difference. It's almost imperceptible, yet the transition is comforting, like shifting from a deep meditation back into conscious awareness. You step in fully, feeling the gentle buoyancy lift your body slightly, the water enveloping you in a soft embrace. The pool is modest in size, just enough for gentle immersion, and around it, bathers are moving slowly, conversing in hushed tones. The communal atmosphere is subtle but palpable. Strangers acknowledge each other with nods or smiles, yet everyone is focused inward, on their own sensation, their own equilibrium. It's a delicate balance between community and solitude, and you find it unexpectedly soothing. Historians still debate whether the Romans considered this stage strictly for comfort or as an essential physiological cooldown. Some ancient texts suggest that lingering too long in extreme heat could be harmful, making this transitional pool not just luxurious but necessary. You imagine countless bathers through the centuries stepping carefully into these waters, their muscles adjusting, their hearts slowing, their minds settling into the rhythm dictated by temperature and time. You take a slow breath, letting the faint scent of herbs and oils mingle with the subtle freshness of water. The contrast between hot, humid rooms and this gentle, tepid immersion is remarkable. You feel your pores begin to close, your muscles tightening slightly in contentment, the body recognizing the completion of the most intense phases of the bath. The sensation is exquisite, a reminder that even luxury must be balanced by moderation. A small child splashes playfully nearby, eliciting quiet laughter from a parent. The moment is charming, grounding you in the everyday life of the baths. While engineering, ritual, and artistry dominate the architecture, it is these small human gestures, the laughter, the care, the simple delight, that complete the experience. You smile faintly, letting the warmth of observation mingle with the gentle heat of the water. Some bathers carried small pebbles or shells to rub along tense spots, believing that tactile stimulation could further enhance circulation and alertness after the intense heat. While not universally practiced, it demonstrates the Roman penchant for subtle, almost playful experimentation with wellness. You trace your fingers along the surface of the pool, imagining how gentle texture could enhance the sensory choreography of the bath. You notice the tiles underfoot, small mosaics of fish and waves, designed not merely for decoration, but for subtle orientation, guiding bathers through the complex with visual cues while rewarding the eye with understated beauty. The Romans integrated aesthetics into function so seamlessly that the practical act of walking or immersing oneself became a layered sensory experience. As you float lightly, the ambient sound of the baths, the faint hiss of water, the echo of movement, the low murmur of conversation creates an almost hypnotic rhythm. Each breath you take aligns with the gentle ripple of water against the stone, each movement synchronized with the slow pulse of other bathers nearby. You feel a profound sense of attunement, not just to your own body, but to the collective presence of everyone sharing this space. Historians still argue about the exact social etiquette in these transitional pools. Some suggest it was a highly ritualized space, with certain times or sections designated for men, women, or particular classes. Others argue that, in practice, it was far more fluid, with the primary concern being comfort and personal rhythm. Whatever the case, the underlying principle remains clear. The baths orchestrated both individual and collective experience, weaving social and physical practice into a unified design. You dip your hands into the water, letting the gentle warmth run down your arms and torso. It's a soft, almost hypnotic reminder that the body responds to contrast as much as to sustained heat. You tilt your head back, letting droplets trickle into your hairline, and feel an exquisite lightness, as if tension is dissolving from every joint. The combination of controlled temperature, water immersion, and movement has brought a heightened awareness that borders on medication. Nearby, an attendant pours fresh water from a small pitcher into the pool, and the surface ripples outward in perfect concentric circles. The motion catches your eye, mesmerizing in its simplicity. You realize that even subtle disturbances, the addition of water, the gentle movement of others, create a living, breathing environment within the bath, one that is both dynamic and profoundly calming. A small group gathers near the far edge, quietly exchanging stories of travel, business, and family. Their conversation is unhurried, yet attentive, a mirror of the bathing process itself, deliberate, patient, and mindful. You note the contrast between this and the outside world, where life often feels abrupt, fragmented, and impatient. In the bath, time slows, gestures elongate. The simplest actions, raising a hand, dipping a foot, inhaling slowly, become meaningful rituals. As you rise slowly from the pool, water clinging in gentle rivulets to your skin, you feel a sense of completion. The body is cleansed, the muscles relaxed, the mind attuned. You take a moment to smooth your hair, brush your hands over your arms, and feel the lingering warmth of the marble beneath your feet. Each sensation is amplified by contrast: the faint coolness of the corridor against the tepid water, the soft echo of footsteps, the subtle scent of oil mingling with humidity. A Roman senator, meticulously navigating these pools with careful, measured steps, all while secretly wondering whether the baker in the corner knows he's a senator. The thought elicits a quiet smile. Even in grandeur and ritual, human quirks persist. This blend of formality and intimacy, ritual and spontaneity is the essence of Roman bathing, and you feel fortunate to experience even a fraction of it. Finally, you step toward a towel rack nearby, the gentle rustle of linen grounding you in the final moments of the bathing cycle. You wrap yourself carefully, feeling the last remnants of warmth cling to your skin. The journey is nearing its end, and yet you savor this pause, this deliberate act of transition from the sanctuary of water and heat back to the air beyond. As you walk toward the exit corridors, the scent of herbs and oils still clinging faintly to your body, you feel an awareness of the full orchestration that has brought you here. Fire, water, architecture, labor, ritual, and human presence, all harmonized into a subtle, multi-sensory experience that transcends mere hygiene. The bath has become a journey, a meditation, a moment suspended in time where body, mind, and architecture meet. You follow the corridor toward the exit, the air gradually cooling, and the humidity softening into something lighter, more breathable. Every step is deliberate, almost ceremonial, as though the bath itself is escorting you back into the ordinary world while still holding a trace of its luxury on your skin. The marble floor, slightly slick from residual moisture, reflects the soft glow of oil lamps lining the walls, and the gentle echo of your footsteps seems to linger longer than expected, as if time itself slows in these final moments. Ahead, you catch sight of the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool, its water a crisp, translucent blue. A faint shiver runs through your body at the sight. It's a necessary shock after the hours of heat and immersion, a literal and symbolic cleansing to restore balance. The Romans were meticulous about these contrasts: heat to open, moisture to cleanse, cold to invigorate. You step closer, toes dipping into the water, the initial chill causing goosebumps to rise along your arms and legs. Historians still debate the precise order and reasoning behind these temperature transitions. Some argue the sequence was primarily for health, stimulating circulation, fortifying the body against disease. Others suggest a more ritualistic purpose, a sort of symbolic purification that prepared bathers for re-entry into social life. You can sense elements of both as the cold embraces you, crisp and awake, drawing a deep breath as the water rushes over your calves. You lower yourself fully into the plunge, letting the coolness envelop your torso. The shock is immediate, then settling, leaving a sensation of renewal. Every nerve is alive, the blood pumping anew, muscles invigorated after the prolonged heat. There's an odd pleasure in the contrast, a reminder that life's extremes, heat and cold, effort and relaxation, can coexist and even enhance one another. You float for a moment, letting the chill seep into your skin, and realize that the bath's final act is as much about mindfulness as it is about hygiene. Around the pool, bathers are moving with deliberate care, some easing slowly in, others standing at the edge, letting the water lap against their shins. The sounds of soft splashes, quiet conversations, and gentle laughter form a subtle symphony. The communal yet non-intrusive environment encourages reflection, allowing you to notice how your body has changed from the beginning of the ritual. You feel lighter, cleaner, more aware of each muscle and joint. A quirky historical detail surfaces. Some Romans would take small ceramic cups of water from the frigidarium to sprinkle on their heads and wrists, believing the sudden chill could stimulate alertness and mental clarity. You replicate the gesture instinctively, letting droplets run down your temples. The sensation is bracing, refreshing, and oddly playful, an almost childlike delight amid the carefully structured ritual. The marble edges of the pool glisten with moisture, reflecting both lamplight and the sheen of bathers' skin. You notice small carvings along the lip of the basin, delicate depictions of sea creatures, waves, and mythical water nymphs. The artistry is subtle but constant, a reminder that the Romans infused every space with beauty, turning even practical features into aesthetic experiences. You imagine centuries of hands running along these same edges, tracing images while reflecting on their own lives. You rise slowly, stepping out of the water and shaking droplets from your arms. The contrast of temperatures leaves your skin tingling, your senses heightened. You wrap yourself in a towel, the soft linen absorbing moisture while your body adjusts to the cooler air. The effect is invigorating but gentle, a final punctuation mark to the bathing sequence. You notice the subtle sheen left from residual oils, the lingering warmth in your muscles, the clarity in your thoughts. Nearby, a small group is exchanging quiet stories, their voices low and measured. One mentions the grain shipments from Ostia. Another recounts a legal dispute resolved in the forum. Their conversations drift lazily, forming a calm backdrop that reminds you the bath is both private and communal, a space where life outside continues quietly without intruding on your moment of renewal. Historians still argue about the social role of the frigidarium. Some sources suggest it was a place for discussion and networking, while others indicate it was primarily a health-focused space, allowing the body to regain equilibrium. Perhaps, as with so many elements of the baths, the truth lies somewhere in between. The Romans mastered the art of layering function, aesthetics, and social ritual seamlessly, and you feel it in every sensation, from the chill of the water to the gentle echo of conversation. You linger at the edge, dipping your hands, letting the cool water run over your wrists and shoulders. The chill sharpens your awareness without jarring the calm that has settled over you. Your skin glows faintly, the combination of heat, oil, and cold leaving a lasting vitality. You notice the subtle reflections in the water, the interplay of lamplight on rippling surfaces, and the way small movements send waves that distort the images delicately. It's mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, a visual counterpart to the physical journey you've undergone. If someone were observing you from above, they might mistake your careful movements for a form of aquatic dance, each gesture perfectly synchronized with water, light, and fellow bathers. The absurdity makes you smile, yet the sense of harmony is undeniable. The Romans designed these spaces to elevate everyday actions into something extraordinary, and you feel it now in the precise choreography of immersion, rinse, and movement. You take a final, deep breath, letting the cool air and water mingle in your lungs. The bath has been a full symphony. The heat of the caldarium and laconicum, the gentle rinses, the oiling and scraping, the tepid immersion, and finally, the sharp clarity of the cold plunge. Every stage has been designed to awaken the body, calm the mind, and heighten awareness. Rising fully, you step toward the exit corridor, feeling the final tingling along your skin as the bath releases you gently back to the ordinary world. You carry with you the subtle warmth, the lingering scent of herbs and oils, and the quiet calm that comes from fully inhabiting a ritual practiced for centuries. The bath has not only cleansed but centered you, leaving an indelible impression of Roman ingenuity and the simple, profound pleasures of mindful care. You step from the frigidarium into the exit corridor, the cool air of the open halls greeting your skin like a soft exhale. Your body is alive with lingering warmth, tingling from the contrasts of heat and cold, moisture and dryness. The baths have guided you through a journey of extremes, and now, at last, you can savor the final sense of calm, that delicate state between alertness and surrender. You wrap a towel securely around yourself, the soft linen brushing gently against your skin, and feel an almost meditative satisfaction settle over your shoulders and back. The corridor is lined with shallow benches, niches filled with fragrant herbs, and soft oil lamps casting amber light across the marble walls. You notice the subtle smell of rosemary, bay leaves, and traces of lavender lingering in the air, a gentle reminder of the oils applied, the scrapes endured, and the cleansing rituals just completed. There is a quiet hum in the space, the distant sound of water flowing from one basin to the next, the occasional scrape of a strigil returned to an attendant, the soft murmurs of other bathers sharing the final moments of their experience. Each sound forms part of a symphony, soft and intimate, meant to accompany the transition back to everyday life. Historians still argue whether these final corridors were purely functional or if they were carefully designed to provide a psychological cool-down as well as a physical one. Walking here, it is easy to understand the argument. The gradual decrease in temperature, the soft light, the subtle scents, and the quiet activity all combine to coax the body into a state of gentle awareness and the mind into calm reflection. You move slowly, allowing each step to sink in, the echo of your sandals on the polished marble a soothing percussion against the faint background murmur. You pause to admire a mosaic underfoot. Small tiles depicting fish gliding in gentle arcs, water lapping against a distant shore. The imagery mirrors the journey you've just completed: immersion, warmth, cleansing, and balance. The Romans had an uncanny sense for blending art with everyday function, creating a space where even the act of walking became a visual and tactile meditation. You run a finger lightly along the edge, tracing the pattern, letting your mind drift into quiet appreciation of detail. Centuries ago, someone else walked these same corridors, perhaps tired from civic duties, perhaps sneaking in a private moment of indulgence. Their feet, their hands, their eyes, all experiencing the same sensory orchestra you now feel. It is humbling and comforting, a reminder that the human experience, even across millennia, can be shared through space, ritual, and sensation. You reach a small pool of cooler water at the corridor's end, designed to refresh hands, face, and feet one final time. You dip your hands in, feeling the gentle chill ripple across your skin. The water is not shocking, merely stimulating, a careful, considerate finish to the orchestration of temperatures that has guided your body so meticulously. Each droplet rolling down your arms, each ripple across the surface reinforces the sense of balance achieved through the baths. Nearby, a few bathers recline on benches, quietly conversing or simply resting. Their voices are soft, measured, the tempo slow. No one rushes, no one distracts. The room is a shared cocoon of tranquility. You take a deep breath, noticing the subtle rhythm of your own pulse as it syncs with the environment. The baths were never merely about cleanliness. They were a holistic practice for the body, mind, and spirit, a space where one could inhabit both private contemplation and communal serenity simultaneously. You pause, allowing the memory of each stage to settle. The heat of the caldarium, the enveloping steam of the laconicum, the gentle rinses, the meticulous oiling and scraping, the tepid immersion, and the invigorating cold plunge all have combined to create a subtle equilibrium, leaving your muscles supple, your skin glowing, and your mind in a soft, attentive calm. Each step, each splash, each stroke of oil and metal was carefully designed to transition you gradually through sensation and awareness. In the bustle of Rome, amid the clamor of markets, the heat of summer, and the dust of the streets, these baths offered a rare pause, a space where time slowed, where bodies were renewed, and where human ingenuity celebrated comfort, art, and sensory delight simultaneously. You realize how deeply considered every aspect was. The architecture, the materials, the sequence of rooms, and even the smallest tactile details were orchestrated to produce this precise state of balanced awareness. You move slowly toward the outer exit, the sounds of water and gentle conversation fading behind you. The cooler air beyond the doors carries a hint of the city. Distant voices, faint horses' hooves on cobbled streets, a soft breeze that mingles with the lingering warmth of your body. The transition is gentle, almost imperceptible, allowing you to carry the calm of the baths into the ordinary world. For a moment, you pause, closing your eyes and taking a deep, slow breath. You feel the lingering warmth, the subtle glow of oils, the residual pulse of the hypocaust beneath your feet, and the echo of centuries of human presence. You are both present and reflective, aware of your body's responses and grateful for the layers of sensation that have guided you here. Now, dim the lights slightly. Perhaps turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Let your body settle further into relaxation. Every muscle, every nerve, every breath is a gentle reminder of the journey you've just completed. The baths were a crafted experience, a meditation in warmth, water, and human care, and the effect lingers, soft, quiet, and deeply satisfying. Take a moment to let your thoughts drift, to feel the subtle alignment of body and mind, and to appreciate the small, exquisite luxury of being fully present. The baths, in all their complexity, in all their thoughtful orchestration, have left you renewed, calm, and quietly alert. You carry this feeling forward, a gentle equilibrium, a memory of warmth, cold, motion, and stillness, ready to return to the world with a sense of both clarity and soft satisfaction. Slowly, you release tension from your shoulders. Let your jaw unclench and allow your limbs to soften. Every breath carries the lingering warmth of marble, the faint herbal aroma, and the memory of water gliding across your skin. You feel lighter, both in body and in mind, as though the hours in steam, heat, and gentle immersion have pulled away not only sweat and oil, but residual burdens of the day. The sounds of the city beyond the bath's doors are distant now, filtered through the calm cocoon the ritual has created. Thoughts drift without urgency. The mind wanders lazily, exploring the edges of sensation and memory without need for resolution. The glow of your skin and the hum of warmth beneath your feet linger softly, a quiet comfort that invites a slow, deliberate exhale. Remember that every sensation, the scrape of strigil, the cool splash, the gentle pressure of oil, is now a gentle echo within you. You can revisit them at will, letting each memory of touch, temperature, and scent roll through your awareness like a soft, undulating wave. You are present, at peace, and deeply attuned to your own rhythm. As your eyes begin to close and your body surrenders to rest, you carry this sense of renewal forward. Let the quiet triumph of human ingenuity, sensory delight, and gentle care accompany your transition from wakefulness to sleep. You have moved through warmth and cold, effort and relaxation, water and marble, and emerged balanced, calm, and deeply satisfied. Drift now, knowing this feeling remains within, soft and constant, a gentle companion into dream and night. Sweet dreams.